Alright everyone, well, now that I got the game review out of the way, which obviously is the one leading up to the next Avengers movie, Endgame, which is my most anticipated movie of 2019. I'm sure a lot of people are anticipating this film despite the excessive length of 3 hours. But hey, we're all set for it, come on. Meanwhile, I might as well talk about two films, and I'm going to make this a two-part review, which is going to be pretty interesting, because in case you people don't know, yes, these are two films that I anticipated for this year. Captain Marvel from Marvel's The Avengers and the DC version of Captain Marvel. Yeah, Shazam, in case you don't know, is DC's version of Captain Marvel, and I guess there must have been some kind of legal issue or maybe some kind of confusion if they called that character Captain Marvel, but I just find it weird how DC would have a character called Captain Marvel. I mean, that's like Marvel having a character called Captain DC. It just doesn't make any sense there. But I guess to avoid the confusion, they just said, screw it, we're just going to change the character's name, and that's what they went with. But anyway, before I get too carried away, I might as well talk about them in chronological order. And this is the first part, video, of Marvel's interpretation of Captain Marvel. Yeah, I anticipated this movie for this year, and I just didn't realize it was going to get so much hate, and with all the political crap, which I'm going to keep to a minimum because I really don't like talking about this kind of nonsense. Yeah, you know, the fact that it's a female lead character, played by Brie Larson, and she's a great actress. I mean, she was in Room, she was in Kong Skull Island, which is obviously leading up to Kong vs. Godzilla. And yes, I find it funny how not only she's in there, but Tom Hiddleston, who played Loki, and Samuel L. Jackson especially is even more funny because they're in this movie together. Not Tom Hiddleston, obviously, but you get my point, they're all Avenger actors. Yeah, I'm getting too carried away and talking about this too much. Anyway, does this film really deserve that much hate it's been getting? The fact that it was released on National Women's Day and all that. I mean, I have nothing against female lead actresses or anything that trying to get their own movie. I mean, if you recall Wonder Woman back in 2017, that was a major surprise hit, and it made a shit ton of money at the box office. And because for number one reason, it didn't try too hard, you know, to be something that's really not, like Batman v Superman. It didn't clutter itself too much. And yeah, it was great. But then you have movies that try to feminize this whole Hollywood genre into something that it really should avoid doing. I mean, I tried to go in with an open mind and try to keep this kind of crap out of it and just enjoy what's in front of me, for starters. And it's really not that bad as people are saying it is. I mean, critics praised it while fans were kind of not as welcome to it. And I can definitely see why. I mean, it's more of a stepping stone film. I understand that. I mean, not every single character Marvel Avengers movie was A+ great. There was Thor the Dark World, which some people were kind of mixed on, and I can understand. It was not the best in the Marvel series, and even Iron Man 2 and 3 were not as welcoming to most fans because of some major flaws. Yeah, they were not as good as the first one. So this one, I didn't think was that terrible. First of all, her acting was decent, but then there was other pieces of dialogue that didn't really amount to a lot and were very questionable for the most part. The one thing I will say is very welcoming to this movie is the Stan Lee dedication during the opening Marvel logo at the beginning of the movie, especially since his passing last year. That was a nice touch added there. And even his cameo, of course, was great too. He didn't say a single word out of it, not to give too much away, and I'll try to be, you know, maximum spoiler free on this one. You know, spoilers I'll try to keep to a minimal. But anyway, yeah, her character, they try to complex it, being that they try to make her like an alien-like character, but really she's from Earth. And I feel like that's where the film kind of drags on, and it kind of keeps you, you know, it tries to put a twist into the story, but in reality, it just doesn't amount to a whole lot. And yeah, and they try to make a twist on who the villain is in this film, and it's not really the strongest twist. I kind of saw it coming for the most part. And the aliens themselves, which obviously are kind of like T-1000 copycats, you know, the fact that they imitate human life form, and yeah, I mean, come on, they're not very appealing looking. They look almost like the villains on Thor the Dark World almost. You know, I knew they were going to be CG, but come on, they could have done a better job with that. Otherwise, a lot of the fight scenes were pretty good. I do like some of them, and the cat I thought was kind of cool and funny. But otherwise, not the greatest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie for the most part, but I think it definitely is a bit underrated for some parts. It goes on a little bit long, and the character does take some time developing, and I just feel like the twist is not really the strongest for the most part, but it's working up to something. It's a stepping stone Marvel Avengers movie. That's pretty much what it is. I don't think it's the best, but I don't think it's the worst either. It's kind of just on top of Thor the Dark World. It's decent. That's about it. And yes, of course, there's not only a scene during the middle of the credits, there's also one at the end credits, which the one in the middle of the credits obviously is the strongest, but yeah, and of course it takes place in the 90s because, you know, it's kind of a prequel, and I do like how it ends, you know, with that one word which I wouldn't dare give away. You know, and of course they have to throw the Blockbuster video in there, a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reference, and even some music from the 90s by no doubt, so not much to say there. It could have been much better, but then again, it also could have been much worse. But otherwise, 2 playing weird modes up. It's decent. So, yep, that concludes part 1. Tune in for part 2, and I'll talk about DC's version of Captain Marvel. Keep watching.